home decorating, including great advice. West Side Decorating Center. Good morning. Welcome to the Art Lewis Show. That makes me Art Lewis the last time I looked. Let's see what's happening today. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, we're going to talk to a former sports executive. He was CMO of the NBA, CEO for NBA and NHL teams. His name is Bernie Mullin, and Bernie has written a book. And the book is called Reimagining America's Dream, Taking Back America's Dream. We'll talk to Bernie after the 10 o'clock news this morning. And on a focus, we'll take a look at Rocket Grab Plus and see what's in the store for today. But for this first hour, we'll have open phones, whatever happens to be on your mind. 989-752-6111 would be the number to call. And we'd love to chat with you and have a good conversation today about anything at all. I want to start out, though, with a lighter topic. There's been some news stories this week about San Diego and its zoo because there are two giant pandas that have been brought to the zoo from China. I have to tell you, 20 years ago, I had occasion to be in San Diego, and I had a whole day to myself in San Diego. And I decided I really wanted to go to the San Diego Zoo and see the pandas. And it was one of those rare times in San Diego where it was hot and humid. Normally, San Diego's in the 70s. It's probably the most ideal weather in the United States. This particular day, it was well in the 80s and high humidity. One of the most miserable days you can have in San Diego, which doesn't happen very often. But I went anyway. And first of all, San Diego Zoo is immense. It's one of the premier zoos in the country. And I decided I would first ride a bus around this. They have this double-decker bus that rides around the zoo to show you where things are. So I rode that. And I saw where the panda exhibit was, but there were no pandas out. So I got off the bus and I walked back to the panda exhibit. And again, there were no pandas outside, or at least visible at the time. I decided I would hang around. And it only took about 10 minutes. And along comes one of the giant pandas. It was worth the wait. It was worth the heat. It was worth the trip just to see these gorgeous animals. It was really quite special. If you have an opportunity to visit a zoo that has pandas like San Diego, the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. used to, but I think they had to send them back. Their time was up in the United States. But if you have a chance to go to a zoo that has giant pandas, do it. It is worth it, just to stand there and look at these magnificent animals and watch them play. So I just thought I'd mention it because I see that the two new pandas, Tu Young Chuan and Jin Bao, are the two magnificent creatures in the zoo. And there are now, which they didn't have when I was there, they have timed tickets to see the giant pandas. And you get these complimentary timed tickets when you arrive at the zoo. And you scan a code and it tells you what times are available. And then you head to the Panda Ridge at this time. There are also standby lines and early morning with pandas walking tours. And it really is quite something to see. I mentioned the National Zoo, the Smithsonian National Zoo. In May, it will be getting one male and one female from China. Sometime, well, they said that, announced it in May. that sometime before the end of this year, there will be 2 pandas at the National Zoo. So if you have an opportunity, folks, it's special to see these animals. It truly is. Let's say hi to Mike in Thomas Township. Michael, good morning.
Hey, how you doing, Art?
Good.
Have you heard the story of Tulsi Gabbard? It was on WSTW and it was on TV yesterday. They put her on the terrorist watch list.
Who did?
Well, it was the Homeland Security put her on the watch.
Tulsi
Anyway, she's
the military Tulsi Gabbard?
Yes. That's what's so puzzling about it. 8 or 9 times, she flies a lot. She says 3 to 5 times a week. And her and her husband both have been put on the terrorist watch list, which takes them an extra hour at the airport because they have top-notch security. But she's going to sue, and she's going to also try to have them give her the information from the whatever the charges are, because she's definitely upset about it.
Sounds political.
Yeah, of all things. But, it is, and that's what she thinks, and she says this administration is just totally out of control. But, when she was going through it and telling how they did their job, she didn't complain about the people, because she said, man, they're very thorough. They do everything. But a whistleblower is how she found out about it. She was wondering, because on her tickets it came up, I think it was SSSS, whatever that means, but it's supposed to be that tells the ticket taker that you have extra scrutinizing. I can't imagine if somebody is, she ran for president, but I guess
we'll have to get all the facts on this one. That sounds strange.
Yeah, I know. It was on. I think I heard it on radio the first time on Hannity's, show on your station, and then I saw it on the TV show last night. Well, they had her. She talked. They interviewed her, and she told her story. So it isn't something made up by the press or anything like that. And but she said that she was wondering, because the first time she said it was odd. They pulled her aside and did all this, and never happened before. And then the second time and the third, and she said, "What the heck is going on here?" And then she started recognizing the air marshal, because they assigned 3 air marshals to sit around her every time she got on an airplane, and she started realizing it. And I guess she talked to one of them, and he said, "He ain't supposed to be."
It's something called the Quiet Skies Watch List. And Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee is asking the TSA for reasons why this happened.
Yeah, I wonder why they call it Quiet Skies. I mean,
I don't know, to keep the skies quiet, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so a bomb doesn't blow your airplane out of the sky. Yeah, but it just seems odd. And, between this and the Justice Department and the FBI and the Secret Service, I mean, good gosh, this country's going to hell in a handbasket, And
it's interesting, too, the TSA stated it does not take race or religion into account when enrolling individuals in the program, but failed to mention political affiliation.
Yeah. Well, again, they have to do what they're told. I mean,
I understand that, but I just don't understand why. I'd like to know who put her on that list and why. Makes no sense at all.
Well, that's what she's trying to find out. She's trying to get a disclosure. I don't know what they call it, but she's trying for that, and then she's also said she's going to sue, and if she has to, she says she'll go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, first thing that'll happen is watch how fast she comes off the list now that it's public.
Oh, I think that she's already off. I think she mentioned that yesterday on the.
Yeah, I'll bet she is.
On the TV show.
Yeah, I'll bet she is. All right.
But 8 or 9 times, that's out of hand.
All right.
Have a good weekend, my friend.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye now. I will take a break, and then we will be back with more calls. We'll get to Mark in Bay City when we return.
Are you suffering from pain or injury?
All right, we're back with you here on WSGW. Back to our phones. Mark is in Bay City. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Art. How are you, sir?
Good.
Hey, Glenn Beck put a piece out the other day, and this is my source. But I am taken back. Donald Trump, when he started Truth Social, he had donations which crashed the website down when he first launched his campaign, like $50 million, his second campaign. But then Harris got the nomination just now, and her campaign brought in hundreds of millions of dollars more than what the Trump campaign is. No phone numbers, no nothing out there to donate to or anything like that, just the website. My concern is there's a company out there called Act Blue, which takes in the donations for the Harris campaign. And it's been discovered that these donations that are being brought in, small donations, odd numbers, and so forth, are from past donors that have donated to the Democratic Party. And now this go around, they haven't donated, but in their name, $18,000, $15,000 here and there. And there was a research op that was done, and the guy caught up with one of the donors who says they donated $18,000. She says, I never donated anything this year to this campaign. So there's dark money being funneled through this Act Blue,
Yeah,
and I think somebody needs to investigate where this money is, because it's been brought that if the money's not used at the donation in the campaign, Act Blue can utilize it however they see fit.
Yeah, well, they end up being a PAC, and they spend it on PAC advertising.
Or DAs getting certain DAs in certain districts elected.
Well, that's Soros money, but that's that's speculation. I don't know. I mean, all of it's speculation, so it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But don't expect it to get investigated right now. That's not going to happen.
Well, no, that will happen after the election, and
maybe
then that will all be busted up. And well, yeah, it depends on who gets elected.
Yep.
So, all right. Well,
all right,
that's all I had on that.
Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Take
you
care.
as well.
Bye now.
Bye.
And here's Paul in Saginaw. Paul, good morning.
Morning, Art. I was listening to your program a couple days ago about what can we do to stem the tide of crime and violence in our area. Mm-hmm. And there is answers to that problem, and it's in the Good Book. And what the Good Book says in Matthew, it says, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. So if we strive for perfection, and you don't hear that by the parents, the schools, and the churches anymore, every musician and every athlete knows you have to strive for perfection in your craft in order to be good. Because if you don't, you won't be playing sports or you won't be playing music anywhere.
Here's the problem. Now, first of all, you're right. Okay. But secondly, you got to convince the whole bunch of people that don't follow the Good Book, that don't care what the Good Book says.
Absolutely. Oh,
good
absolutely.
Luck. Good luck.
It's all about evangelizing,
Well,
and the Good Book also says too, when you're not perfect, because none of us are perfect. We're supposed to confess and pray, and you shall be saved. Now, conservatism.
That's fine as long as you believe the Good Book and you follow the Good Book. That's fine. But a whole bunch of people don't.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Now, conservatism is all about striving for perfection, while liberalism and libertarianism is all about breaking the rules and rebelling against God. And rebelling against society.
If you're telling me that come on now. If you're telling me that all liberals hate that and they don't follow the Good Book, I know an awful lot of liberals that are very faithful people. So don't even go there. That's nonsense.
Well, I mean, as a general rule.
As a general rule, it's nonsense.
There's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, the exceptions are the people that don't want to follow the rules and don't want to see the country survive. Those are the exceptions, not the rule.
Right. Yeah, you're right about that. But we still should, in the parents, the schools, and the churches, promote more striving for perfection. And when people strive for perfection, they're going to think less about crime and violence.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. All you got to do is convince them.
Absolutely. It's all about evangelizing.
Good enough.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Take care.
Later.
Bye-bye. And let's talk to Russ in Bay City. Russ, good morning.
Good morning, Art. I just wondered where our presses of not one of the elites that raped kids on Epstein's Island has been prosecuted by Garland in our Justice Department. And where's our press? Why are they ignoring this? I mean, I expect that from Garland, but the press is supposed to be the watchdog on our government for us.
Man, the story's
Where
old.
the hell are they?
Story's old, that's why.
Oh, it's old. Oh, that's right. And you think, whatever.
If you don't want to hear what I have to say, then don't call.
No,
I'm telling you the truth.
Yes, Art.
I'm telling you the truth. Sorry if you don't like it.
Okay.
But here's the deal.
You just let it sit on the shelf.
Here's
If
the
it's
deal.
about the Democrats.
Here's the deal.
Okay.
The deal is that first they have to build evidence, not speculation.
Okay.
Okay, well, you have the evidence,
Come on,
obviously.
The FBI captured Epstein had hours and hours and hours of blackmail videos made. There was all kinds of evidence. There hasn't been one prosecution of these monsters. Not one.
Yeah, well, I think there should be. Don't get me wrong.
And our press has been silent on it. And that's who I'm condemning. I expect it from Garland and the Democrats. I expect them, just let it sit on the shelf. People will call it old news, and it will just disappear. And that's what it always happens when it's about them.
Okay.
I'm sick of it. These people belong in prison.
Good enough.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye. Here's Alan in Saginaw Township. Alan, good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Hey, good morning.
This is probably old news already, and you may have covered it. You mentioned on Wednesday morning how when the vote results came in, Saginaw County was 0%, 0%, and so on.
Until, I don't know, I went to bed at 11:30 and it was still all zeros.
Yes, and you were going to try to check into it, and I wondered if you had found anything.
I have not yet. Haven't found anything out yet. I haven't had time to call, so I will. But that just it's because every other county was producing live numbers. You could see them rotate in, and there was nothing up. But I don't know why the clerk didn't put it up. There must be a reason. I don't know. I'll have to ask her.
Yeah, I was curious about that and didn't know.
Me too.
Discovered anything? Yeah, good. Okay, well,
if I find out, I'll get it on. Have no fear.
You betcha.
All right, Alan.
Right, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we'll take a pause, and then we'll be back. Let me take a moment to tell you about Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford, my car dealer. It's where you go for all your routine maintenance, oil changes, tires, brakes, batteries, the like. But they also have something else called FrigiFresh. Now, what is FrigiFresh? Well, it's a hospital disinfectant, and they place it in your air conditioning system. What it does is it kills germs, mold, pollen, odors, and keeps your car fresh and keeps you safe in the cabin of your car. And best of all, it only costs $20 and only takes 10 minutes. You don't need an appointment. You just drive in, go inside and ask them for FrigiFresh. They'll take care of you. Again, $20, 10 minutes. And remember this too. Even though Quick Lane Freeland is part of the McDonald Ford complex, they don't just work on Fords. They work on all makes and models of cars and trucks, keeping them in tip-top shape. Stop in today. Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford. Tell them you'd like FrigiFresh in your car. $20, 10 minutes, and your car is healthy.
The Motown.
All right, we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show for this Friday morning. Nice sunny day. Going to be a beautiful weekend, too. Back to our phones. Jim is in Midland. Jim, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. It's Tim. They always call me Jim, but that's Tim. Anyways, not a big deal.
Okay.
I'm not going to go on that. I had 2 points, and I'll be quick.
That's all right.
First one, the gentleman called about the Epstein list.
Yeah.
The reason why it's not out there, two reasons. First, you got Republicans and Democrats on the list, so there's nobody going to go after it. There's no gain for either side of the aisle. That's why. Second reason is there's people on the list that own the media are on the list.
Yeah.
That's why you're not going to see it out there.
That's probably
so
true.
The big names are out there, so that's why you're not going to see it. It's gone. It doesn't matter who's in there. If Trump gets in, which I don't think he will, he'll lose the dingbat. But even if he gets in, he might be on the list or he might have buddies on the list. So you're not going to see that list. It's going to go away. So,
yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, that's my reasoning on that one. The second point I want to make is all the political ads I saw for the Democrats for this primary or the last vote we had there on August 6th, it seemed like each one of them was trying to go more extreme on the abortion topic. And it's gone from more of a like, used to be a pro-life to go to like a pro-abortion stance.
Well,
and to me, it's gotten sick.
Yeah, well, that's because the court,
you are getting evil now.
You know why that is? Because the court got rid of Roe v. Wade, and it's a states' right issue now.
Right,
and what surprises
like
me,
well,
because they want to make it a big issue, but I have a feeling it's not going to be that big an issue because every state, it's certainly for the people that don't want abortion, it's not going to be an issue in those states where they've banned it. For the people that want abortion, it's not going to be an issue in those states like Michigan that allow it. I think it's going to be a lot of lip service.
I don't know what it's going to be, but what my point is, it's they're running on like a pro-abortion stance.
Yeah,
it's not pro-choice. It's pro-abortion.
Yeah,
it's like that's sick.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but
they don't want any restrictions. No restrictions.
Exactly.
Dude, that's sick.
Yep.
That is evil.
Well, it may be, but it's the way it is, and politics makes for strange language sometimes. I mean, they just, they'll say anything about anybody. And by the way, it's not one side or the other. Both sides do it. It's the political game today, unfortunately.
100% agree.
Yeah,
100% agree.
The
hypocrisy on both sides makes me sick.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say that hypocrisy makes me sick.
You
get it from both sides.
I've talked to some people who I would consider to be one way or another. They're not going to drop out. They're going to vote for Kennedy just to vote and not have to vote for Trump or Harris.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to get a significant amount?
Not enough to make it. Well, he may make it. He may get enough to make a difference, but he's not going to get.
But he's going to.
He's not going to get enough to come close to winning. I mean, I don't think he'll get 15, 18% maybe. That's a guess.
Probably less than 10%. But that 10% is pulling from who? Trump or Biden? Or Biden?
Well,
Trump or Harris?
Speculation was it was going to pull from Democrats because they were concerned about it more than the Republicans. But who knows?
I guess I heard the other way.
Yeah, and that's the point. More. See, that's the point. It depends who you listen to.
Yeah,
but that's,
you're right.
So, it may pull from both, and in which case he's neutral.
Yeah, so I think, and this is my last point here, I'll make a point on this, and I've called in your show since, 9 months now, when it was Biden and Trump, and I said neither of these fools are going to be in the office in January.
That's what I thought.
Well, I think I'm right. I think it's going to be, what's her name?
Well,
I don't even know.
It's going to be, I'll tell you what, it's going to be tight. It's not going to be, a blowout, and it's going to depend on states like Michigan. The swing states.
If it's tight, who wins if it's tight? The Democrats are going to win. They've got a better. They're better at, I will say, rigging the system than the Republicans are.
Yeah, maybe.
They got a better.
Well, time will tell.
My last point is, if Harris is elected, I think this will be the last air quotes election we will see.
Well, yeah, and I think if she's elected, the one thing we better hope for is retaining the House and hopefully even flopping the Senate.
I don't think you'll see it.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be across the board. I do not think it's going to be across the board.
Yeah, I think the experiment in democracy is coming to an end.
Nah,
so
I hope not. All right.
I hope not, too, but I'm sorry.
Good enough, Jim. Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Gene, hang on. We'll get to you next. We'll get to Gene in Saginaw Township right after these notes. All right, we're back with you. We'll get back to the phones, and Gene is in Saginaw Township. Gene, good morning.
Good morning, Art. I was wondering if you were ever able to find out why we can no longer get WJR in Detroit on our radios.
I have not. I inquired, but I haven't got an answer.
Not that we don't enjoy 790, but
I understand.
They used to have some nice programs on there, and just puzzling why we can't get it on our radios anymore. I'll wait till you find out.
Well, I've been trying.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I don't know. I don't see anything either. I was looking on their site to see. Oh, wait a minute. Here's a what happened to. Hang on a minute here. Let me see. No, this is just on their content. That's not it. I don't see anything here that would indicate they changed anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's not...
Yeah, I don't see anything on here that would indicate, other than a change in their schedule, but nothing technical.
Yeah.
I'll keep looking, Gene.
Okay, thanks, Art.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Here's Dave in Saginaw. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Art. I'm not going political with anything today. I'm going to go back to yesterday because I called you yesterday about cars.
Yeah.
And you were talking about your vet.
Yep.
And I mentioned my Charger.
Yes.
And what I probably forgot to mention, when I ordered that car, Chrysler had 3 packages. And I put together the 3 packages into what I actually got delivered to me, and it was $4,700.
What year was that?
69. Pardon?
What year was that?
69.
Yeah. Well, my '64 Corvette was $4,000, so that's you're in the neighborhood.
Well, and you mentioned what you saw your car's value for on TV or whatever. Yeah. I watch Barrett Jackson auctions quite often.
Yep.
And my 69 with the 383, not the Hemi, but the 383 for a 69, loaded up the way my car was, same color, vinyl top, the whole 9 yards, $150.
It's amazing, isn't it?
$150,000.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if mine were moving up too, because the last time I watched where I saw a price was about 2 years ago. But it's amazing, the collector car market and what it's worth today. But you know what else? You know what else is amazing to me, and I have a very good friend who does this. What you can spend in rebuilding, modifying a rod today, or a hot rod, or a hot car, or a power car, costs you far more than anything you'll ever get out of it.
Right. And my son, and I'm not going to mention his name, but my son worked in the automobile repair business here in Saginaw with a friend at Blum's, if you remember the old Blum's.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Okay. Well, my son worked there for 13 years, and the head mechanic and he were tight. My son, because he worked there, knows all kinds of people that can do body work, paint work, metal work. He has a friend who put cars on the Barrett Jackson and has been in national magazines. His favorite cars are Vets.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on with the owners on Barrett Jackson, and some of the cars that he has painted, this guy is a master. He's like a Van Gogh with paint. They have sold for over $200,000.
Yeah.
And
listen, that's an art form. I mean, to do it properly. But the art form in painting is not just the guy that uses the gun. The art form in painting is how that car is blocked out, and how that car
Exactly.
is, how the base of the car that you're putting the paint on is pre-finished.
Exactly.
That's the key.
And this friend of his, has a shop that he owns out Curtis Road, and when he gets a vet, which is his specialty,
Yep.
it goes right down to the bare frame.
Yep.
And comes all the way back.
Yep.
And when he's done, it's a show car that can be on the Barrett Jackson.
The Dynamic Corvette in Saginaw did that for a long time. They don't do it
anymore.
Yeah. They don't do it anymore. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're not doing maintenance and restoration stuff very much. But it's a true art form. And there's another company in Saginaw that works on rods and stuff. American Gasser does phenomenal work.
They're out Gratiot.
Yeah, exactly. They do phenomenal work. So,
and the sad thing is, in our area here, and I've been here now for 50 years in Saginaw. I'm originally from Reese, like I said.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of good old major shops.
Oh, yeah.
That could do all kinds of stuff that don't exist anymore. Saginaw Auto Electric, Motor Wheel and Axle.
Oh, I remember them. When I moved here in 2004, I dropped a suspension ball. The car went down on the ground, and I took it to Motor Wheel and Axle to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody else, Hey, I got to run for time here. We'll do it again.
Okay.
Dave, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you much.
Yep.
Bye.
Carl, make it real quick because we only got about 45 seconds.
Well, you talked about vets for a long time there, Art.
Yeah, well, that's it.
You saw the press conference yesterday from Trump.
No.
He looked confused. He looked tired. He looked angry. He's desperate to debate. Does anyone miss Biden as much as Trump does? It doesn't look good for the Trump campaign right now. All the polls are going in the wrong direction for him.
Well, we'll see. Got lots of time.
Well,
and there will be another. The Democrats will also get another bump because of the convention. And I'm out of time.
Yes.
So we'll talk again, Carl.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
From Cars and Trucks.
We're going to talk to Bernie Mullen, the CMO of the NBA, CEO for NBA and NHL teams. He's written a book called Regaining America's Dream. Talk to you then.
Broadcasting from those.
Tried to cross a fast-flowing creek. A third teenager has been arrested, an Iraqi national, in the plot to kill people at a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna. Officials say he, like the mastermind, had pledged allegiance to ISIS. CBS's Ian Lee is at the foreign desk.
Austrian authorities said the 19-year-old suspect arrested Wednesday morning has made a full confession. After being accused of planning a terror attack, law enforcement says his plan was to use bombs and knives to kill as many people as possible outside the stadium. According to officials, he quit his job on July 25th, days after pledging himself to ISIS, claiming he had big plans.
Russia's declared an emergency in its southern Kursk region after hundreds of troops entered the country in what could be the biggest Ukrainian attack on Russian soil since the war began. The BBC's Steve Rosenberg is in Moscow.
3 days after Ukraine launched its surprise cross-border attack, Moscow has yet to restore control over this part of southern Russia. President Putin chaired a meeting of Russia's National Security Council to discuss the fight against terrorism.
A day after agreeing to a debate September 10th, the presidential candidates are on the road. CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
Former President Trump is headed to Bozeman, Montana today for a fundraiser and a campaign rally in a reliably red state where Republicans hope to flip a Senate seat.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will hold a rally near Phoenix. Breakdancers are getting their first shot at the Olympics today. Among them, LA's Ivan Flips Velez, who says it is a sport.
Just because we used to break on cardboard right on the street corner, that was in the 1980s. It's 2024. Fast forward to the future and what we're doing. It's so physical.
The Dow is down 146 points. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Live
From the 100.5 and 790 newsroom, this is WSGW News.
Partly cloudy skies and 69 degrees at 10:05. Good morning, I'm Mike Perchap. Charges have been issued against a former Michigan and Florida police officer after he was caught in a sting operation in Genesee County. According to Sheriff Chris Swanson, 60-year-old Jeffrey Morningstar offered to pay for sex with a 15-year-old on July 16th, but when he arrived at the meetup, he was confronted by members of the Genesee Human Oppression Strike Team, or GHOST. Swanson says the sting was conducted in collaboration with Chris Hansen of To Catch a Predator, as well as law enforcement partners.
GHOST is not just the sheriff's office. It's all the agencies that we work with, including the Burton Police Department, State Police, the FBI, Secret Service, Homeland Security. GHOST is a sheriff operation that's inclusive to all agencies. We're so thankful for those that make it work.
Morningstar faces charges of child sexually abusive activity, using a computer to commit a crime, and accosting a child for immoral purposes. A Clare County man could spend up to 25 years in prison after being charged with child sexually abusive activity. Police conducted an investigation into 33-year-old Zachariah Doucette, seizing digital evidence from his home after it was learned he was allegedly creating and sharing child pornography. On Wednesday, Doucette was arraigned in 80th District Court on charges of second-degree criminal sexual conduct with a person under the age of 13, aggravated child sexually abusive activity, distributing and promotion of child sexually abusive material, and using a computer to commit a crime. Police say anyone who suspects a person of child sexual exploitation can contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at report.cybertip.org. Events and activities for all ages take place over the next 10 days at the Cheeseburger in Caseville Festival in Huron County. Started in the 90s as a Jimmy Buffett-themed festival named for the song Cheeseburger in Paradise, the festival has since expanded. Now, in its 26th year, Cheeseburger in Caseville offers live music, the Best Cheeseburger Contest, a 5K run and walk, a classic car show, and more. The festival starts today and ends August 18th. WSGW News Time, 10:07.
Is your foundation showing signs?
GW News Time 10:08. The weather forecast is coming up. 6 people, 4 teenagers, and 2 adults are in the hospital with serious injuries after a crash last night near Gerald R. Ford International Airport. The Kent County Sheriff's Office says 4 teens were turning into the airport and another car heading north crashed into the vehicle. The northbound car caught fire with 2 adults inside. A Berkeley woman has pleaded guilty to several felonies after running a health care center for children with autism without being licensed to do so. Michigan News Network's Luke Sloan reports.
Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel says 38-year-old Kimberly Coden has pled guilty to 9 felonies, including unauthorized practice of a health profession, identity theft, and witness intimidation. Coden was a director of services at Oxford Recovery Center, running locations in Troy and Brighton, helping provide services to children with autism. She claimed she was a board-certified behavioral analyst, but she was never licensed by the state and didn't even have the education required to apply. Coden will be sentenced in December. Nessel says anyone who is unlicensed can cause tremendous harm to children. Luke Sloan for the Michigan News Network.
Expect heavy waves across the shores of Lake Michigan. From roughly Manistee to Benton Harbor, the National Weather Service is warning beachgoers of waves and strong currents. They say to avoid swimming and don't venture out onto piers through Saturday evening. Waves can reach up to 7 feet by this weekend. Strong currents can pull swimmers into deeper water than they're comfortable, while high waves can sweep people off of piers. WSGW News Time 10:10. I'm Mike Percha.
Decorating at West Side Decorating Center. Good morning. Welcome to Hour 2 of the Art Lewis Show. By the way, during this hour, we'll hear from Terry Henney, who is out in Cairo at the Old Engine Tractor Show. We'll hear more about that coming up a couple of times this hour. But we have a very special guest to talk to this hour. He's written a book about taking back the American dream. And he has lived the American dream since coming to this country. To give you an idea of some of the things he's done, President and CEO of the Atlanta Hawks of the NBA and the Atlanta Thrashers of the NHL. He was Senior Vice President of Marketing and Team Business Operations for the NBA in the early 2000s, Vice Chancellor of Athletics at the University of Denver in the late 1990s, and it goes on and on. He also has created an organization called the Aspire group, and we will find out what that is all about. But it is a sports marketing organization. And we welcome to the program Dr. Bernie Mullen. Dr. Mullen, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Art, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thanks for being with us today. I guess let's start before we get to the book, and I want to make sure we do that, Regaining America's Dream. The Bernie Mullen story is really an American dream, isn't it? I mean, you immigrate to this country, and success is through hard work.
Absolutely, Art. Yeah, I mean, it's the first thing you need to know is I came in 1970 as a summer camp counselor up in Maine with a close friend. We go to the Yankees game. My uncle lives on Long Island and got us tickets, and we call him and say, "Hey, the game's over. We're heading home." And he says, "The game?" It was a double header. And we say, "What's a double header?"
I laugh because I live in the Bronx. That's where I was from. I was born and raised there.
That's 1970, Art, and then 1985, I'm senior VP of the business for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's the American dream. And then I come to grad school in Kansas, January 1974. Watched my first basketball game. It's UCLA Notre Dame. First loss for UCLA in 4 years. And then Tuesday night is a basketball game, and I find a way to get into Allen Fieldhouse to watch the game. And 15 years later, I'm the senior VP of the NBA and later CEO of the NBA. So first immigrant ever to be CEO of a major league team, and two of them. I feel incredibly blessed.
So, Bernie, let me ask, because you wrote this book, Regaining America's Dream.
Yeah, Reimagining America's Dream.
I'm sorry. Yes, Reimagining. I mean, you've lived the dream, and I have to wonder from the title of the book if you think we've lost that dream or we've moved away from that dream.
I absolutely feel that we've moved away, and we're continuing to move away with the nasty political toxicity that we've got going. It's not the country I came to 51 years ago, and I wrote the book first and foremost to say thank you, America, and to all the wonderful Americans who helped me fall in love with this country, the greatest country on earth. And after I left the Hawks and Thrashers, I spent the last 19 years building a sports marketing company and multi-billion-dollar company that's generated $1.5+ billion of revenue for 300 clients over that time. And we've worked in 11 countries. So I've seen all these other countries. I know this is the best country on the earth, and people are dying to get in here, whether it's, in these overcrowded boats coming out of Cuba or, wherever it may be, coming out of the Mediterranean to get somewhere to come to America, or people who walk 1,000 miles through South and Central America. We've forgotten what the dream is, and I think the dream is inspirational, it's aspirational, and I think it helps unite us. And I think that's what we've lost, and that's what I worry about.
Well,
and
that word,
sorry,
that word "unite us" today in the political climate we live in almost seems like a distant dream, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but I don't think it's that difficult. And then the last part quickly is that for many people, particularly people who are lower income, lower education, the dream was never really attainable, and we have to change that and make that attainable. And I think there's lots of different suggestions in the book. We basically used Pew Research to pick out the top 10 social issues in America, as identified by post-polling research. These things can come together. And one of our suggestions, which is a complete rip-off from Costa Rica. So I was there 18 months ago. When you say muchas gracias in Costa Rica, they don't say de nada. They say pura vida, pure life. Have a pure life. And it's a national ethos. And so we're recommending that we come up with a national ethos. And just as a suggestion to see how it flies, we call each other pals. We're brothers and sisters in the same country, and we are pals. And PAL stands for peace and love. So You're now my pal. I am now your pal. And, you know, let's listen to each other. Let's agree on what we agree on. Let's disagree on what we disagree on peacefully. You're not a deplorable. You're not woke. You're not crazy. You're not weird. All of the labeling that's going on right now got to stop.
Well, I have to tell you how I relate to that. I grew up in the streets of New York City in the Bronx. That's the way we had to treat each other back in the 50s.
Of course.
You didn't have a choice. I mean, that's the way you grew up. That's the way you lived. And we have gotten so far away from it in this country that it's worrisome, because it's not the American way.
No, and you know, people. I mean, and that's the lesson I learned. I mean, my American dream started with a Canadian uncle of my mom who had come as a boy to Montreal, Canada, and worked in the pork factory. The family who owned it had no family. He became their de facto son. He inherited it, and he brought his family 3-4 years in a row, stayed for months in the summer, and I got to know about them. And then Uncle Percy, my dad's cousin, was a VP for Vicks Pharmaceutical. He grew up in the Bronx. And, you know, the Bronx, big Yankees fan.
Yay!
And Uncle Percy's stories about, you know, the Yankees in New York. And, you know, that's what I grew up with as an 11, 12-year-old boy.
Don't steal my thunder now. Don't steal my thunder.
Well, as long as you don't start talking like the Beatles, you know, which is where I grew up in Liverpool, England.
I won't, I promise.
Oh, you're entitled to. Don't worry about that.
That's funny. That is funny. Hang on, Bernie. I've got to take a break. We are talking to Bernie Mullen. The book is Reimagining the America's Dream. We'll talk more about it when we return here on the Art Lewis Show. We'll also hear from Terry Henney coming up near the end of this break.
Ready to save beautiful morning. We are in Caro at the Caro Fairgrounds. Good morning. Attending the Old Engine and Tractor Association show, the Thumb Area Old Engine and Tractor Association show, 48th annual here at the Caro Fairgrounds. Now, where are the Caro Fairgrounds? For those of you who don't know, if you're taking M81 in, there's a Pizza Hut, and there's a side street right in front of the Pizza Hut if you're coming from the south heading north. That's Fair Street. So all you got to do is turn on that and head right into the Caro Fairgrounds, where the show is kicking off today and going through Sunday. The interesting thing about this show, a really special show this year, they're hosting the 30th annual state show for the Michigan Chapter 11 International Harvester Collectors. They're also going to have a farm toy show on Saturday. So all sorts of really special things going on this year at the Thumb Area Old Engine and Tractor Association's 48th annual show. Our broadcast brought to you today by the folks at Steiner Tractor, where it's new parts for old tractors made easy to buy. We'll have more reports going through the hour.
Listen to this state.
We're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show, talking to Dr. Bernie Mullen. He is a former sports executive and the founder of the Aspire Group, but he's written a book called Reimagining America's Dream. So, Bernie, I have to ask you, my dad, who I consider to be a very wise man from the time I can remember, brought me up to believe that it's not the problem, it's how you solve the problem. But part of that lesson was, in order to solve the problem, you have to understand the problem. Do we understand what's happened to America?
I think so. Without a shadow of a doubt, what's happened is we're moving further apart. And, you know, according to Pew Research and all of the experts on it, it starts with the income gap. The number one problem, the number one voting issue in America is the income gap. You know, so we're a country of immigrants all coming here trying to follow the American dream. And the American dream was not about being given anything. It was you earned it through hard work. Right. My father taught me two things. Number one, elbow grease. Hard work. You never hear that anymore. Right. You know, now we give participation trophies. That's not America. Yeah. America is one winner and everybody else lost. And you go, I hate losing. What do I have to do to make sure I don't lose again? And that, for some people that's cruel, and they're not willing to do it. My dad was a sergeant major in the British Army and a boxing instructor. And, as an 8-year-old kid, when he was selling life insurance, he was doing all the paperwork on Sunday. I washed his car. And I remember the first time I finished it. I finished your car, sir. Are you sure? You've washed everything. Under the bumper, under the doors. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay? And then he takes me out and puts my nose under the bumper where I hadn't washed and rubbed my nose in it. Today, he would be arrested for child abuse. That was tough love. Mm-hmm. That was teaching kids discipline, accountability, responsibility. Yeah. And the second thing was, I was a 6-year-old and I stole apples from my aunt's orchard and behind her house. We were in income subsidizing council houses. She had a lovely private house. In the afternoon, I threw up the apples all over the kitchen floor because they were baking apples. I didn't know you couldn't eat baking apples. You had to cook them, and so what do? I lie about where I stole the apples from. I lie about who, the neighbor boy who was 2 years older who went with me to do it. It was really my idea. I said it was his. So I got $2 whoops of the butt from her, each one, 2 for lying, 2 for pointing the finger at Malcolm, and not taking responsibility.
Yeah. I've often said on this program and talking about the subject that we have failed modern generations to teach work ethic. And my father, and I have told this story, I graduated high school young. I was 16 when I graduated high school in New York City. The day I graduated and got home, on the dining room table were New York City working papers that my father filled out for me and the address of the job he'd gotten for me.
Absolutely.
And an hour and 15 minutes each way on the subway to go to work every day during the summer. And that's where you learned responsibility. And I just think, and I look at this as going back to about the 60s as the first generation that really started to kind of, disregard authority, and we failed to teach the upcoming generations how to be parents, and generationally it's gotten worse and worse. And I think that's what's led us to where we are to some degree.
I think so. I think we got parents I'm my child's best friend. I'm sorry. You're not your child's best friend. You're the parent. Be the parent. The book chronicles my journey. It's a very blessed journey of grad school in Kansas, heartland of America, falling in love with it, going to being a professor 10 years in Massachusetts, and then my move to the Pirates. And I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out and congratulate Skip, Jimmy Leland, my former manager at the Pirates, and congratulations for being entered into the Hall of Fame. And if his wife Katie and family are listening, she worked for me. Amazing people. But,
I don't want to steal him from you, but we in Detroit also have some pride with Jimmy Leland.
Oh yes, you do, for good reason, and that's why I'm shouting him out, because he's just gone into the Tigers Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. But so on the 10 issues, how do we bring people back together? A chain is only as weak as its weakest link. And the weakest link are the minorities, mainly, and not all minorities. 37 million poor in America, living below the poverty line, and most of them are white, rural white, which people don't realize, but they are. But they are uneducated compared to what we need for business. So how do we turn it around? Number one, we give people the ultimate dignity of a federal minimum wage, which has to be at least $15 an hour, $30,000 a year, and more in larger cities like Detroit, like New York, Chicago, etc. And my own company, we employ 200 people in sports marketing, Smile and Dial. We do Eastern Michigan University, all their athletic tickets. We do Western Michigan University, all their athletic tickets, and Toledo down the road. And we've got plenty of Power 5, now Power 4 schools. So we've given the kids minimum wage that they can live on, so they don't have to live in their parents' house. They don't have to live floor to an apartment. And that is number one. Let's take a teenage pregnant girl in the United States who was making $20,000 a year in her job because she's getting paid $7-8 an hour. It's not enough. You can't live. You can't pay your bills. That has to change. We then give them so that creates that dignity and that ability to have a life, an ability to be able to, feed the child, be able to drive to a real grocery store, not go to a food desert and get food out of a can.
I have to
feed the child and nourish the child.
I have to ask you this, Bernie. I have to ask you this, though. And I understand the concept. But doesn't that, in some ways, create a vicious cycle? Because obviously, when all the minimum wages go up, as they have been, and maybe rightfully so in some cases, that also drives the prices. Do we really get ahead is the question. And the other question I have when it comes to the income gap in this country, obviously there are those folks who, through no fault of their own, have fallen into the cracks and in the low-income side of things. But I do have to ask, how many people who are not making it today are not making it because they didn't put in the effort? The education was there for them. They didn't take advantage of it. All these things in front of them, including the American dream, they've chosen not to follow the path and take care of it. How do we deal with them?
Yep, in many cases. Well, you're right in both counts. First off, as an owner of a company, I've made the conscious choice that every one of our people should get minimum wage and convince the universities that we work for to pay that.
Right.
Because of the ultimate dignity. So it does put a price on business. It does raise the price or the cost of those goods. But overall, you look at it and you say, as a country, it's good for the country because what it does is reduces teenage pregnancy. It reduces all the food stamps and all the dependents and all the entitlements that we've got going right now. It starts to eliminate that. And you've segued into the second part, which is education is the key. And I think that there are a large portion of people living in poverty that are there. And Jesse Jackson, funnily enough, said this many years ago. He said, if you're down, it could be because you're black. But if you stay down, it's because of your choice. And those are harsh words that many people are not willing to listen to, and particularly today. Mm-hmm. Today, it's all victimhood, and that doesn't work. My dad was tough on me, but, sitting there hating my dad and blaming my dad was the dumbest thing I could do. Because not only did he teach me hard work, he taught me values and honesties, and your word is your bond. So the lesson from stealing the apples was, you'll never do it again, and you won't lie. So we have to have a system where, and we have to invest in it, and it is money out to start with. We've got to give all kids in America the chance to take advantage of preschool, meaning they can read, write, do basic math when they go into kindergarten, and that's an investment. And it's $100 billion a year for the 4 million kids that are being born in America every year. It's about what we're spending on Gaza and Israel and Ukraine. So if we need to keep on spending that money to support democracy across the world, then do it. And then add this in. So, there is a price. It would seem to be socialistic, but you're gonna have fun as a sports fan, Art. I'm going to ask you the question. What is the most socialistic professional sports league in the world?
I would probably say baseball, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's the NFL.
The NFL. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
NFL, NFL does 60 cents on the dollar of every ticket money for the home team, 40 cents on the dollar to the visiting team after expenses. And the NFL, the biggest check, the billions, is the national TV and merchandise contracts, and they're all spread evenly.
Yeah. Well, I just...
And it works... And in the most capitalist country on the earth, which is why I made my home here, you get rewarded for hard work. There's nothing in this book that is a handout.
Okay.
It's all hand up.
So let me throw this at you then. Well, I'll tell you what, let me take a break and I'll come back because I've got a leading question I've got to ask you, Bernie. Hang on and we'll be right
to hear it.
Dr. Bernie Mullen is with us. The book is Reimagining America's Dream. We'll be back with that question after these notes.
From Cars and Trucks.
Hi, we're back with you talking to Dr. Bernie Mullen, who is an expert at building winning organizations and brands, has been involved in sports for a long time as an executive, and has an organization called Aspire. He has written a book called Reimagining America's Dream. So I teased you, Bernie, with the notion that I had a question for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned...
Yeah, frightened me.
Well, you mentioned hand up. In today's world, there are a lot of people who think the government has all the answers. And the government has become a handout rather than a hand up. Am I right or wrong?
Completely. You are completely right. And it is, it's perverse racism. It's the exact wrong approach. It assumes that these people are not capable of solving their own problems. And it's the worst lesson we can possibly teach them. We have to hold people's feet to the fire. And I'll give you a good example. I lived 19 years in Atlanta, Georgia. And, you know, Stacey Abrams and some of the other politicians there, and I don't want to get too political, I already have, sorry.
That's all right.
You know, you cannot require driver's licenses or government IDs for people to vote. Why not? Because minorities don't have them. Oh, my God, that's incredibly racist. Of course they have them.
Yeah.
They have them for everyday living, for God's sake. I mean, it's ridiculous to assume that that's the case. Some don't. Okay, take them to the government agency, pay the $3 for them, and get them the driver's license. But it's very few, and that's the excuse that opens the door for all kinds of, you know, voter fraud. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't want to go down that road. But it's just one example of, you know, we're feeding opium to the poor people because we don't think they can feed themselves. Well, of course they can feed themselves.
Yeah, but yet, day in and day out, we're pummeled with all the negative, and
we are.
And part of that, and part of the blame, I think, again, this is me, lies with social media. We have changed with social media, and not for the better in my world.
Not for the better in my world either, and that's one of the big parts of the book. I don't believe in censorship, but yet I'm advocating that we have to have some form of censorship in social media. It's so toxic. It's so nasty. You've seen the governmental inquiries with all of the top social media platforms, CEOs having to come there because of what it's doing for teenagers, particularly girls, body image shaming, all the other crap that goes on in social media. It should be, you know, there's so many institutions in our world, in America. One is religion. Religion should be the most uniting force in the world. Instead, it's become, you know, and this is over centuries and thousands of years, it's become the most divisive force, you know, causing wars, which is crazy. Well, look what's going on
historically,
with Palestine and Israel.
Historically,
you know,
we've killed more people in the name of God than anything else I can think of.
Exactly right. And, you know, and what people don't realize is within the Muslim faith, Shiites, you know, and all the other divisions they've got going, they've killed more Muslims than they have non-Muslims, you know. So it's just crazy what it is. And I use that as an analogy to your point in that how do we bring people back together? We bring them back under the common umbrella of you can do it. You know, Bella Caroli with Kerry Shrug in the, you know, women's gymnastics. She's got a broken ankle, and yet he says you can do it. She does the vault, and we win the women's team gold. It's that kind of stuff. It's the PAL program. It's the main part of our educational recommendation starts with free preschool for every kid. It's not an entitlement. Everybody gets it. Everybody saves the $10,000, $15,000 a year. The government would have to invest in it, but the goal is that child goes into kindergarten able to read and write and do basic math. Latchkey kids. 1 in 5 American kids go home to an empty house. Got to stop that. They stay in school. They get babysat. They do their homework. Okay? And then before the freshman year in high school, I'm recommending a boot camp. What we used to do with military prescription, no guns, none at all. It's how to become an adult, how to learn how to get along. 8-week sleep camp. Take the mothball military bases that we've got, put the kids in there. Every morning they get up, they have to exercise. They learn how to cook the meals, and they cook the meals. They come away with 8 breakfasts, 8 lunches, 8 dinners, healthy meals. They learn how to get along. Black, brown, yellow, doesn't matter. Rich, poor, doesn't matter. You're going to get along, and you have a civics. John F. Kennedy's ask not what my country can do for you, but what you can do for it. And then sophomore, junior, senior year, exactly your point, Art. We give them internships, and they get paid. They have a resume at age 18. They've had experience. They know what college and what major they want to follow. They know if they want to get a professional degree, because not everybody should go to college.
Yep.
And I taught there for 10 years, and so I know that fact. And then if they've done that in good standing, they get 4 years of vouchers to go to college. $15,000 a year or professional program. No student debt.
I want you to do one other thing.
Yep.
I want you to include a course called Comparative Religion, where we learn about each other's religion, so we learn to respect each other's religion and those that don't have religion.
Yep. Yeah, I would love to do that. And the biggest criticism we're going to get is, you're trying to program our kids. Well, damn right I'm going to try and program them, but I'm not going to program to be right, and I'm not going to program to be left. I'm going to program them to have values and honesty and integrity and work hard and get off their ass. No phones for 8 weeks. And what that does, Art, is if they did that, $5,000 a year, I know how to go to get a bank to do sponsorships. I've done it all my career. I'll get banks, national banks, local banks to compete to give them 7.5% interest. No tax, no deductions, no payroll deductions. Every child in America at age 18 would have $25,000 in their bank to buy an apartment or to go and start an entrepreneurial business.
Yeah, interesting.
Generational wealth created, which we've not done in the last 400 years and the 250 years of our country. We've not done that for poor people with lesser education. So let's give them quality education. We know by 3rd grade, if they're not reading to 3rd grade level, they are 5 times more likely to commit crimes, be in jail, be teenage pregnant, have social problems, and be a dependent, sucking money out. So that's where the return comes from. The government's investing early on, is that later on, all these social services and all these entitlement programs reduce way down.
Bernie, hang on. I got to take one more break here. We're talking to Dr. Bernie Mullen. His book, Reimagining America's Dream. We'll tell you where to get it and all that when we return.
Quick question. Are you providing...
Once again, the Tuscola County Fairgrounds have come alive. This is Terry Henney broadcasting today from the Fairgrounds in Carroll, where the 48th annual Old Engine and Tractor Association show is kicking off today and going through Sunday. Threshing, baling, daily parades, shingle mill, antique autos, as well as antique tractors, a sawmill, flea market, live music, lots of special events. And this year they're hosting the Chapter 11 International Harvester Collectors 30th Annual Show. Admission, $5 for adults. Children under 12 are admitted free. If you want to check it out online, you can by going to Caro Tractor Show. That's CARO Tractor Show.com. Again, the 30th Annual special edition Michigan Chapter International Harvester Collectors Meeting and the 48th annual show of the Thumb Area Old Engine and Tractor Association. Our broadcast brought to you today by the folks at Steiner Tractor. New parts for old tractors at steinertractor.com. More reports next hour.
I went Dr. Bernie Mullen, the book Reimagining America's Dream, and I could speak to you for hours, Bernie, and forget to ask you one very basic question. Where is the book available?
Oh, it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and then you can go to your favorite bookstore and order it.
And do you have a website?
I do have a website, BernieJMullin.com. So BernieJMullin.com.
And in this book, is this sort of an autobiography in some ways?
It is, to start with. Yeah, it chronicles my journey, and I hate politics, Art. So it chronicles my journey of chasing the American dream, of going from being a professor to being an executive in sports, and every state, every city, every team I worked for, what I learned, and paralleling that is my social consciousness of it's not about me, it's about others. How do I help other people? Realizing there are many that don't have the opportunity to have the American dream, and that's where that educational program kicks in. They don't have the opportunity. My dad started work in a butcher's shop in a grocery store and just had to slap the meat and chop up all the bones and the fat. He was never allowed to cut the meat. It was a terrible job. And he went selling life insurance. Within 3 years, he was promoted twice, and all of a sudden we're in middle-class housing. So I know what it means to grow up in council housing, as they call it in England, income-subsidized housing, and how to grow from that. And it really says this is an amazingly powerful thing. And it's, like I said earlier, it can unite the country. And that, more than anything else, the uniting the country is what we need now. And so that's the purpose of it. So my social consciousness raises, my awareness of politics raises. What we've got going on with the presidential election in this country right now is a great example. We've got extreme right, we've got extreme left. Those are our choices. Pew Research says we've got 65% of Americans are in the middle. We're moderates. We're independents.
I have said for years, anybody who listens to the show is probably sick of me saying this, the far left, the far right make all the noise. Most people don't live there.
No,
most people
we don't live there. We don't live there. So, part of the book is a call for those of us in the middle. Get off your hands, get off your seats, and start shouting back. Demand that we want moderate politicians that have the best interest of all Americans at heart and are willing to pass the legislation that is in the best interest of our country.
Yeah, instead of the party.
So instead of the party. Don't get locked into the doggone party. And, I'm not necessarily advocating a third party, but along the 2 years of writing the book, I did recognize that reimagining America's dream is RAD, R-A-D. R for Republicans, D for Democrats, and 8 for, according to Pew, the 60+% of Americans are in the middle.
All the rest of us. Bernie.
Yeah, the majority of us.
Yeah. Bernie, I hate to say this, but the clock says time's up.
Why?
This has been phenomenal. Where do you work out of? What city?
I work out of Denver now, so we've left Atlanta.
Great place.
Moved back to be with our kids and grandkids, in our retirement age.
This has been a pleasure. I would love to do it again with you sometime.
I would love to also, and our favorite phrase now is, if we knew how much fun our grandkids were, we would have had them first. So
all right.
I'll leave that as a message to all Michiganders. Thank you. You've been so generous with your time.
Thank you for being with us. Dr. Bernie Mullen, we appreciate his time, and we will be back with the news.
With a focus on memory care.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Steve Kathan. The eastern seaboard's taking on water from what's left of Debbie, the storm system blamed for at least 8 deaths in the southeast. There's flooding in places like Annapolis, Maryland, where this ice cream shop owner says,
right now, the only flow we have coming into the store is from the city's wastewater, from the toilets and the floor drain, but we have plugs for those so that we don't have to suffer that.
Some places are under a tornado watch. Correspondent Chris Van Cleve is at Reagan National Airport outside Washington.
Seeing extensive delays starting to line up at major airports. Looking at D.C., it's about a 30-minute average delay. Newark, about an hour. LaGuardia, about an hour. JFK, 30 minutes.
Now to Arizona, CBS's Camilo Montoya Galvez reports Vice President Harris is headed there to campaign. She's just picked up the endorsement of the nation's largest Latino rights group.
It is the first time in its history that this group will endorse a presidential ticket formally. This is the first time they have ever done this for a Democrat or Republican. The organization's co-founder is saying that the reason that the group is doing this is because they want to do everything it takes to stop former President Donald Trump from getting back to the White House.
Well, CBS's Torian Small tells us the former president takes a stop today in Montana.
It's represented by a Democrat who is pretty moderate, John Tester there, but he's in a very tight race. So Trump will be there to convince voters to coalesce around the Republican senatorial candidate.
Overseas, Russia has declared an emergency in its southern Kursk region. The BBC's Steve Rosenberg says it comes after hundreds of Ukrainian troops made their way in.
It's still unclear how many Ukrainian soldiers are fighting on Russian territory or what their objective is. Today, even some of the most pro-Kremlin Russian newspapers admitted that Kiev's surprise assault had achieved some success.
Ukraine says at least 12 people were killed in a Russian missile attack on a shopping mall in the eastern part of the country. A UN group said today July was the deadliest month for civilians in Ukraine in nearly 2 years. A rapper who went to France for the Olympics has had a run-in with the law, as we hear from CBS's Deborah Rodriguez.
Paris prosecutors say Travis Scott was taken into custody at the 5-star Georges V Hotel over a fight with a security guard. The guard had apparently tried to break up a scuffle between Scott and his bodyguard.
Checking Wall Street, right now the Dow is up 13 points. The S&P is up 11. NASDAQ is up 18 points. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Brand of jewelry not only